More LFOs, you're probably thinking, they just did an update to add a second LFO. How are there more than that? Well, these are the LFOs that were actually on the Digitakt all along. And they're the LFOs that aren't actually LFOs, if that couldn't be any more confusing. So the thing is, the thumbnail was clickbait, but if you read the title, then you'll realize that I'm talking about motion sequencing and parameter locking, because you can tweak a lot of the parameters via parameter locking and end up with the same exact effect that you would by assigning an LFO to that parameter. And it involves a little bit more legwork, and it doesn't work with every parameter for every sound depending on where your trigs are, but it's the same basic idea, and using motion sequencing opens up a ton of flexibility. So I'm going to show you how I've applied this to a beat. And first I'm just going to play the beat dry, and then I'm going to slowly add a couple of LFOs, and we're going to play around with some of that motion sequencing. So take a listen. So for simplicity's sake, we just have a quick little beat, a little loop. It's a 3/4 beat, and this sample is from the Bath's Splice sample pack, and this is the melodic sample that we're primarily going to be playing around with. So let's mute everything else and take a listen to this sample. And I have some parameters set up, some LFOs that I've already assigned. One is to the sample tune, for some wonkiness, because we love that. Turn the BPM up to 8 for some circus times, but we don't want to chill at the circus. We want to chill in the vibe zone, so we'll keep it nice and easy today. So the second LFO we're going to play with is the amplitude volume, and we're going to implement this in a way that gives us a sort of fake sidechaining effect, because I have my master compressor set up to sidechain to the main outputs and not the kick, but I want to have sort of pumping vibe on this to accentuate the 4 feel of it, even though it's 3 bars of 4. So and with our kick track, that pumping makes a little bit more sense on the downbeat. And that's what it sounds like with everything, with our LFOs added. But let's say we want to automate some more parameters, right? Like, let's throw some delay on this and see how it sounds. So that's pretty cool. But I don't want the delay level to be static. So since I've already used my 2 LFOs up and I want to motion sequence the delay in, we can do just that by live recording and adjusting the delay level as we live record. And this is going to have the same effect as using manual parameter locks, except we don't have to do it one trig at a time, and we kind of get to play around with it more performatively, like you would if you were like messing with a live effects box. So let's just go for it. You can hear those settings are locked into place. And if you go into the grid, you can see these yellow keys indicate that there is motion sequenced data on those knobs, or on those trigs, not the knobs. Let's try it with reverb too. So now you can hear, obviously, that this patch, if you want to call it, has a lot more movement and variance and variety within the loop that exists. And this is a really fun and quick way to experiment and sort of shape your sounds without kind of going in and meticulously programming per step. You can, again, do it performatively and kind of see where it takes you. And there are some different ways to clear these steps. One way is to just click the trig, and then unfortunately it inputs a trig, and this is just one loop that we have, so you have to double click it to get rid of the trig. And if you're playing around and you don't like what ends up on a certain trig, let me find a trig with some delay on it. Okay, there you go. So what you can actually do is just hold on to that trig and click the parameter button that corresponds with that parameter. So delay is E. And there you go. Turn delay off for that. Let's see. We don't want reverb on step 14. Click F, turns the reverb off. Let me see if I can find here. So this one has a lot of delay, this trig. So let's turn that off. See how it sounds. So you can hear that the delay on those trigs is now gone. But say we want to take another pass at it and just kind of mess around again. So you can do that with pretty much any parameter that you want to. You have to keep in mind though that if you're using a loop like I am, where there's only one trig and it's just held out through the entire length of the pattern, you won't be able to adjust like the attack or the decay of an individual trig. The only way to do that would be to essentially manually slice the sample up and place trigs down on all of the steps, and then you could kind of mess around with that setting. So where there's only one trig, and some settings do apply to individual trigs, such as an envelope, then it doesn't really work. So like, I'll show you what I mean. So the information is recorded, right? Like you can see per trig that there's information regarding the envelope, but nothing is really happening on each step because that envelope only applies to the trig on which the sound first occurs. That was a really quick tip for you all. I think that it's really useful for unlocking a lot of different potential in terms of sound shaping an individual sample or an individual track with multiple trigs. And it kind of allows you to use your LFOs for sort of standard operations. You know, like for me personally, it's always detuning and amplitude volume for my sort of main samples or pads that I want to be kind of punchy and be the main idea of a song, that I always seem to want to impart the same sonic characteristics on across my tracks. So it's really useful to be able to set those up quickly in the way that I know, and then to experiment sonically with parameter locking and motion sequencing with other parameters that I would want to apply an LFO to. So yeah, don't forget parameter locks, don't forget motion sequencing, do it live, and have a great time. Please, this is supposed to be fun. And I'd like to interrupt for a quick plug. If you're enjoying these types of tips, please let me know. If you'd like to buy a Digitakt, please do so utilizing the Perfect Circuit link in the description of this video. And while you're there, please check out my Instagram and my Patreon. My Instagram is cool, and my Patreon has cool stuff as well, like tiers where you can sign up for lessons, free downloads of the jams that I post on my YouTube channel, and other fun things. You get your name featured on this screen at the end of the video. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me as always, and I will catch you next time. Peace.